Another Hezbollah leader killed in an Israeli airstrike in Beirut, breaking a year-old ceasefire brokered by the US. Hezbollah has not retaliated so far, but could this escalate into a wider conflict? I'm Haytham Ali, and this is the Newsmakers. It looked to many like a fragile truce from the start. The American brokered agreement between Israel and the Hezbollah armed group to end a year-long conflict that killed more than 4,000 people. Over the last few weeks, Israel has stepped up attacks on Lebanon over what they say are Hezbollah's attempts to rearm. It culminated in the killing of military commander Haytham Ali Tabatabai on Sunday in an airstrike on Lebanon's capital. Is this the latest sign that another full-blown conflict is imminent?
An airstrike in Beirut's southern suburbs. A 2024 ceasefire violated once again as Israel targets a building housing a Hezbollah senior leader. On Sunday, Israel's armed forces killed Haytham Ali Tabatabai, chief of staff of the militant group. Hezbollah's deputy leader condemned the strike.
This attack today on the southern suburbs crosses a new red line, a line that was previously crossed.
But Israel remained defiant. We will continue to do whatever is necessary to prevent Hezbollah from re-establishing its ability to threaten us. At least 5 people were killed and 28 others wounded. The following day, mourners and supporters attended the funeral procession as it snaked its way through the city's streets.
Praise to be God. Victory may be soon, God willing. No matter what they do, no matter what happens, we are steadfast. This is our country, this is our land, and we will remain steadfast in it.
On paper, a US brokered ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon was established in November 2024 after a year of fighting and repeated attacks by Israel, which eliminated much of Hezbollah's senior command structure. Hezbollah, previously a hugely well-equipped and organized paramilitary and political faction, was required to disarm and withdraw from southern Lebanon, going north of the Litani River. The country's official army would re-establish a presence in southern Lebanon, become the only armed military force in the country, while Israel would withdraw out of southern Lebanon. But Israel has been carrying out strikes on southern Lebanon on an almost daily basis since the ceasefire. Sunday's Beirut strike was the first on the city in several months. But Hezbollah refuses to fully comply with the disarmament. And the latest strike on Beirut, killing Hezbollah's Tabatabai, is likely to not only enrage Hezbollah, but further complicate the Lebanese state's goal of controlling its own southern territory. Lebanon's president, just days before Israel's Beirut strike, implored Lebanese unity on the eve of the country's Independence Day holiday.
We can no longer live in the absence of a state, and the issue here is not only about arms monopoly and deciding on peace and war, which is indeed very important and inevitable, but more importantly, it is about ensuring that Lebanese citizens' loyalty is to their homeland and that their constitutional and legal allegiance is to their state.
Israel accuses Hezbollah of trying to rebuild its military capabilities in the south, which the Lebanese government denies. But the worry for many in the area is that Israel's continued strikes and the latest killing of another Hezbollah senior leader on Sunday could create a pretext for the ceasefire to be officially abandoned, fanning the flames of outright war between Israel and Lebanon once again.
Well, joining me now to talk more about this from Boston, we have Public Policy Fellow at the American University of Beirut and non-resident Senior Fellow at the Arab Center in Washington, D.C., Rami Khouri. From West Jerusalem, Director of the Israeli Committee Against House Demolitions, Jeff Halper. And joining us from Beirut, founder of the Levant Institute for Strategic Affairs, Sami Nader. Good to have you all with us. Rami, let me start with you. What's behind this attack, do you think, by Israel, and why now?
This is par for the course standard policy for Israel and has been for half a century. They use military violence as the primary tool of engagement with the countries surrounding them, especially Lebanon and Palestine. And anybody who dares to challenge them or resist them is eliminated, and their country is destroyed. Gaza is the worst example of this now. Southern Lebanon has suffered this many times, and then nobody is stopping them. This is the great dilemma for the Palestinians and Lebanese resistance and the Lebanese state and everybody else.
Well, Sami Nader, you are in Beirut. Give us a sense of the atmosphere there right now. Is there a fear that this could escalate into a larger Israeli assault similar to what we saw last year?
Yeah, the fear is high, especially after the last military operation of Israel, targeting this time the heart of Beirut, the southern suburb of Beirut, and it looks that things are getting on an escalation track. Actually, the war did not stop. Since the signature of the ceasefire agreement, the military operation led by Israel never stopped. So Israel is putting more and more pressure on the Lebanese authority to disarm Hezbollah. It's true that for the last two months, actually since August, the Lebanese government took the decision to guarantee that the monopoly of arms in its hand, meaning in putting it differently, to disarm Hezbollah without saying it clearly. However, up to now, the Lebanese government and the Lebanese army did not achieve this objective despite the high pressure by Washington on the government to do so. This, in a way, give a free hand to Israel to try to achieve this objective through military means. And the Lebanese government is squeezed. On one hand, Hezbollah said it very clearly that he does not want to disarm, and on the other hand, Israel is pretexting the presence of Hezbollah as an armed group to pursue its military operations.
Jeff Halper, what do you see happening here, and in particular the mood in Israel right now? Is there a feeling that this is likely to escalate, and that from the point of view of Israel, it needs to continue to escalate in order to finish the job, as it were, on Hezbollah?
Well, from the point of view of the Israeli public, it's hardly in the news at all. I mean, it's in the news, but people don't really care. They were focused on the hostages. And beyond that, what happens with the military, what happens in the region, people more or less rely on the army. It's not a source of concern for Israelis, and it's not really in the center of their attention. It's the background noise that we've been living with for all these decades. But I think the important context here is normalization. I mean, this is how settler colonialism wins, becomes normalized. And of course, what's coming down the pipeline right now is the Abraham Accords. But before, and even Saudi Arabia has said this, before any kind of normalization can happen, there has to be industrial quiet on the ground. There has to be pacification of all resistance. And I think this explains Gaza, it explains the attacks in the West Bank, it explains Lebanon, and a lot of the other military operations. Israel is trying to use this opportunity to destroy any opposition that confronts it, in order to create a situation in which Saudi Arabia and the Arab governments can then begin the normalization process. So I think you have to look at it in that context, that this is a pacification process.
Is that how you see it, Rami Khouri, a pacification process?
Yeah, I think Jeff is correct. The Israelis are with active American support, the Israelis are trying very much to impose normalization on all of their Arab countries surrounding them. And they're trying to do it by asserting their military might, which is quite significant, especially with the total U.S. support. But the tragedy for the Israelis and for Zionism is that they've been doing this for 100 years, and it hasn't worked. The Arabs have not rolled over and surrendered. You know, the Israelis, more than anybody else in the world, perhaps, with their long history of Jewish subjugation around the world, they should know more than anybody else that a subjugated people will resist. This is not a ideological position. It's not a religious position. It's a biological human instinct. When you are subjugated, mistreated, dehumanized, imprisoned, exiled, injured, killed, treated like an animal, you resist. You fight back in any way you can, militarily, politically, economically, culturally, socially. And the dilemma for the Arab countries and resistance movements is they just haven't found the key to forcing the Israelis to accept a negotiated settlement, which all the Arabs have offered, to live peacefully with a Jewish majority Israeli state within its 67 borders, more or less, to be negotiated. So yes, the Israelis are trying to force Arab compliance and subservience, vassal status, and most Arabs keep resisting this. So this is what's interesting for me to see now, the creeping involvement of the United States in the diplomacy, and possibly Turkey might get involved and others. And so we had this fascinating incident in Qatar, where the Israelis attacked Hamas in Qatar, and a few weeks later, the American president forced the Israeli prime minister to apologize, and then the American president promised that Israel would never attack Qatar again. This is fascinating. Maybe the Lebanese government has offered to negotiate with Israel on issues of mutual concern, a permanent ceasefire mainly, but they demand American guarantees that Israel will not keep attacking Lebanon. So maybe the Lebanese are trying to use diplomacy as a means to halt the Israeli attacks. And the Lebanese, like everybody else, are willing to coexist with the state of Israel, but not with a rampaging Zionist zombie killing machine that does what it wants all over the Middle East anytime, kills anybody, imprisons tens of thousands of Palestinians, and runs amok with its military might, which still has not achieved its goals.
Sami Nader, if we look at what's at stake here more specifically inside Lebanon, Israel has said that they are doing this because they need to see Hezbollah disarmed, and that's not happening. And the part of the agreement was that the Lebanese army was tasked with doing that. The whole issue of Hezbollah disarming and the Lebanese army carrying it out is quite a contentious one in Lebanon, isn't it? How does that factor into things?
It used to be contentious. However, I mean, with the election of the new president, Joseph Aoun, and with the formation of the new government, there is a drastic change in the official position of the Lebanese state. For the first time, I mean, in his inaugural speech, President Aoun talked about the monopoly of arms in the hand of the state. And this is unprecedented. It was followed by the statement of the Lebanese government when it was formed, repeating the same thing, that they want to achieve full sovereignty, meaning to let the Lebanese army be in full and solely control of the Lebanese territory. So there were, I mean, this change, a radical change in the official Lebanese position. However, it was met by a total rebuttal by Hezbollah, who said it clearly that the government has done a mistake by issuing by taking this decision, and they refuse to disarm, and this is creating a tension inside Lebanon between at least the government and Hezbollah. However, the Lebanese authority did not take any measure trying to confront Hezbollah. They are trying to contain it and to bring Hezbollah to the conviction that there is no alternative except war and destruction if it keeps its arm. Up to now, this method of containment or trying to achieve the monopoly of force by dialogue did not work. On the other hand, the Lebanese army needs equipment, needs financial support, especially after the financial collapse. And on the other hand, Israel kept occupying like 5 outposts inside the Lebanese territory, and this, in a way, feed the narrative of Hezbollah that there is still Lebanese territory that are occupied. So, in a way, Hezbollah and Israel are giving each one, I mean, they are exchanging excuses or pretexts. So in a way, Hezbollah is saying, as long as Israel is occupying Lebanon, I will not disarm. And on the other hand, Israel is saying the same, as long as there is a military organization here, I won't withdraw, and I will keep and I will conduct I will pursue my operation until full disarmament of Hezbollah. And this puts the Lebanese state in a very tough decision. And there is, in my view, a responsibility of the Arab community and the international community to break this dilemma and to put pressure on both Iran and Israel in order for Hezbollah to accept that its military role should be terminated, and for Israel to withdraw. Otherwise, the only alternative is an open war between Iran and its proxy Hezbollah and Israel on the Lebanese territory, with all the consequences that we know.
Jeff Halper, you mentioned earlier the Abraham Accords. These are the agreements that Israel has signed with a number of Arab nations, and the hope is that they can reach further agreements with other Arab nations. But can Israel be considered an honest broker when it seems to be violating its own agreements in this way?
Well, yeah, I mean, Israel, I don't quite agree with Rami. I think actually Israel is kind of succeeding in its strategy. Israel's goal is what I would call sufficient normalization. It doesn't want peace necessarily. It doesn't really care about being integrated into the region. It doesn't really want to be accepted. It wants to be, I think, the military hegemon that is simply too big and too strong to be messed with. And so it has a three-pronged strategy. One is to serve the hegemons. It serves the United States, with military weaponry, with technologies, security, and so on, being a Western surrogate in the Middle East. But mainly, we also have to take into account it serves the Arab elites in all these governments. If you think about all the technologies of repression that Israel exports to these countries. Israel's an intermediary when they want F-35s between Congress and the American government and these governments with their serious human rights abuses. Israel provides really important services. And then secondly, in terms of the Palestinians, it's pacifying them, and it believes it can pacify them with the technologies that we have today. And at the same time, it's co-opting their elite leadership into a Palestinian Authority that's collaborationist with Israel. So it's easy for them to manage the Palestinian population. And then the third part, which is what we're talking about, what happens in Lebanon and Iran and with the Houthis and so on, is kind of marginal for Israel. It's what Israel calls mowing the lawn. It isn't, they're not existential threats to Israel necessarily, maybe Iran a little bit more, but basically it's able to sort of simply keep them weak, keep them fragmented, reduce them as any kind of serious military threat. And in that way, you create this kind of a stable management sort of a situation in the Middle East in which Israel is able, and it is moving towards a normalization process that in a way, normalization is a closure. There isn't much political space for Palestinians, especially after normalization. And I think after normalization takes place, I think the Arab world, maybe more than Israel, will deal with issues like Hezbollah and the Houthis and all these resistance disruptive kind of factors. And Israel will pretty much be maybe Israel's job as the military hegemon of the Middle East will be dealing with the bigger threats, Russia, China, Iran, and it'll leave these little threats like Hezbollah and so on to the Arab governments to resolve among themselves, in my view.
All right. So, Rami, what implications do you think this has for the wider region then?
I think if you look at the trends in the region, you see, as Jeff pointed out correctly, that you have many Arab governments who are collaborating with Israel, depend on it for assistance to have Washington sell them advanced airplanes and things like that. And some of them rely on it for water, for economic technology, etc. But I think the point that he doesn't address, where we disagree, is that the Americans were the military hegemon of Vietnam. They were the military hegemon in Afghanistan. The U.S. and allies were the military hegemons in South Africa, and in the end they failed, because there is no force in the world stronger than the will of an entire people to live in freedom and dignity. And the Arab people want to live in freedom and dignity, and they're willing to coexist with Israel more or less in the 67 borders. But the Israelis don't want coexistence. They want hegemonic dominance over the entire region. So in the short run, Israel is achieving military victories and pacifying some Arab quarters. In the long run, it can't keep 500 million Arabs and then 1 billion people, if you include the Turks and the Iranians. It can't keep them all pacified simply because it has a more sophisticated technology. So, and if you look at the place of Israel in the world, where has Israel's policy, which Jeff described it, I think, pretty accurately. But where has this brought Israel? It's now like South Africa. The global uprising for Palestinian rights is amazing. International justice, legal decisions, public opinion in the United States, all the important trends that should be important are going against Israeli aims and more towards a just peace between Israel and the Arab countries. So yes, in the short run, Israel is doing this. In the long run, it's creating much bigger problems. How the foes of Israel and the proponents for justice will prevail, we can't tell right now. But we've seen in retrospect how military power cannot permanently dominate a region, and the only thing that we should look for is a just, reasonable peace that gives all the states equal rights. The Israelis and the American government don't see the Palestinians as having equal rights with Israel. They don't see the Lebanese as having equal statehood with Israel, and this is not a sustainable situation.
Sami Nader, how much support does Hezbollah still draw in Lebanon right now, particularly in terms of how it deals with Israel? If there is an escalation, do they risk being blamed for it by Lebanese? I mean, is there a danger that they could kind of poke the bear too much, so to speak?
I mean, first of all, Hezbollah is still enjoying, I mean, he has its own constituency and he's still popular, mainly among the Shia community. So he is by far the most representative Shia political faction in Lebanon. However, in my view, the Shia population, as much as the other Lebanese sectarian groups, does not want to suffer a new war again, because they have seen and they experienced the result of the last war that was waged in 2023 on the October 8th, and the result was 1 million displaced and a huge amount of killed people, and their houses have been destroyed. All the South Lebanon today is not. They cannot come back to their houses. I mean, there is an effort for reconstruction, but the resources are not here.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Fascinating discussion. We'll see how this does play out. Rami Khouri, Jeff Halper, and Sami Nader, thanks for your time. And thank you for watching. Remember, you can follow us on social media and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Hazem Sika. We'll see you next time.